morning, everybody. This is the Pitchlight Chronicles. I am Chats. I am here with Donald and Rob. And when you're looking at yesterday's game, I think it's safe to say that was one of the more complete games that we've seen from the team this season. You had the offense, you had two offensive explosions to kind of put the game out of reach. Phenomenal pitching. The defense was really on point. And it's something where it's almost one of those games where you could just feel like the momentum is really all in their corner. It's starting to click. And I really do want to give a shout out to IKF. Him in center field is so much better than Hicks anywhere on the field overall. He made some really good plays that most outfielders may have trouble with. When you're looking at the going on Mazza, and actually I also want to give a double shout out to Mazza for jumping on last minute and hosting yesterday's show with me.
Sweet.
And a lot of fun. I hope that he's able to come on one more time, a couple of times during the year. But when you're looking at the overall box score from yesterday's game with the offense, defense, and pitching, do you come out with the same outcome as me, where it just looked like it was their most complete game so far this season?
Well, they had 11 walks, which was great. That was their most patient. Some really good patient at bats, drew a lot of deep counts. So there was patience, drew 11 walks, excellent. Also, Anthony Rizzo had a perfect day, and it was really good to see Peraza work a walk and Volpe as well. So yeah, it was just a really well played game. Like the defense, as you said, was on point, and some timely hitting, which was important too. Productive at bats, and as I say, the 11 walks was just great. Really patient. That's the Yankees of old, throwing deep counts and beating down the door eventually.
Yeah, I mean, everybody having a walk yesterday, with the exception of Cordero, who I think was in for defense, so he doesn't really count. That doesn't happen normally. So excellent at bats, excellent plate appearances. And yeah, give IKF some credit. Made some really difficult plays out there in center, and he looks a lot better than I would have thought he would this early in the season, this quickly into learning center field. So I give him some credit for that. And his last couple of games, he's been able to drove in a couple of runs yesterday. He's had some hits, so he's at least being productive when he's being used. So he's showing that he has a little bit of value, which is nice. Pitching was fine. Nestor is doing his thing. The bullpen's been fantastic. We're actually the best in terms of F4. We're the best pitching staff in the league, which is crazy to think about. Because we still have a couple of guys there was one guy that's really severely struggling, but pitching's been fine despite all the injuries. And we got a little bit of decent news because Bader's going to be starting a rehab assignment, so we'll be getting him back soon. But man, I can't help but, as good as the win was, I'm a little upset because I feel like the news that I don't want to hear is going to happen today, because Donaldson's back and someone's got to get sent down.
Yeah.
And you know who it's going to be, most likely. And I looked at his at-bats yesterday, and he's had 7 at-bats or whatever it is, and I'm like, this guy's already better than basically our entire bench has been this year, and they're going to send him down. So it's a real shame because Peraza played his ass off yesterday, had a good day at the plate, played great defense, looked so smooth at second, and you're seeing the future right before our eyes. And even the Twitter page said the kids came to play, and everyone's like, well, then keep playing them. But we know what's going to happen. So I do want to give some credit to Peraza because, once again, he comes out there and he's going to only play a couple of games. And both of those games, he looked fantastic. And he's going to be, unfortunately, most likely shipped out. I hope I'm wrong. But, yeah, I mean, overall great game, but I can't help feel a little upset because we know what's coming later on today.
Yeah. Go ahead, Donald.
So is Donaldson definitely back? Because Brian Hoke yesterday said, to clarify, this does not mean Donaldson is activated. Just means he's no longer playing for AA Somerset. Has he definitely been activated?
Well, if that's the case, I actually didn't. I just thought that he was returned from his. So maybe I hope I'm wrong. Look, I pray I'm wrong. If he needs to stay another 2 weeks on the IL, he can earn his money there.
Because I heard that he didn't react too well, like with his hamstring. I heard that there was like not a
Yeah.
great reaction.
After his first game, there was still a little something there, but I actually didn't see Brian Hoke's tweet. The last thing I saw before I went to sleep was that he was returned from his rehab assignment. So
Yeah, I think what it is they took because because I heard the same thing as TC saying that he's out indefinitely, and I think what they're trying when they pulled him back from his rehab, I think they're shutting him down again. They're not going to have him play any more games. They're just going to have him just rest up. So I think that's how I interpreted it.
That's a relief.
So, but even let's for the sake of argument, when Donaldson comes back, why does it have to be an infielder that gets returned? Why can't And I hate to say it because he gave us a little bit of a spark to start the season, but you're kind of seeing Cordero, as much as he can still be a solid fielder. Why not one of those those guys? Whether it's Franchi or Calhoun, one of those guys. Why does it have to be Peraza?
So we have 70 infielders.
And get creative.
Because we have too many infielders. They're not going to send down an outfielder that we don't have enough of or enough good ones of. We have one good outfielder right now in Aaron Judge. Cabrera is still he's on and off at times, so I think he's going to get better over time, but you can't classify him as good yet. And Bader's hurt, Stanton's hurt, and then you have Cordero who's gone cold. Calhoun isn't known for being good, really. And then there's the criminals, so we really don't have any outfielders. That's why if Donaldson was to come back, it's going to be Peraza that gets sent down because Bader is also on his way back. So once Bader comes back, we'll have 2 good outfielders. And then when we get Stanton back in hopefully 6 weeks, we'll have 3 good outfielders.
Yeah, it's just, throwing it out, because there are so many – there are other key people that are on the IL. It leads to question, why does it have to be the kid that gets sent down? They have other ways where they can keep the youth injection and – because they could always just slide Donaldson into what Stanton's role would have been, and if they want to get somebody out of the off the field, you have other options for the outfield still, because and I'm only going. I know I'm going by one game from last night, but at least we see that IKF has put in the work to really study how to play the outfield. So if it's for one game just to get Judge, off his feet, it's not the worst case scenario.
Right. Yeah. Let's touch on some of these comments here. Fortune Express, Volpe Perez needs to be the middle infield tandem. 100% agree with that. TC Steele's Perez ain't going nowhere. That's good. FJ, we are going to see what Perez can do now. I hope so. Fortune Express, Perez will prove his worth. Completely agree. Really want to touch on Peraza. The guy is the truth. I think he's actually further along. I think he's even more major league ready than Volpe. And that is not a disrespect on Volpe. I just think Peraza seems very, very smooth out there. His at-bats are very professional. And his defense is absolutely phenomenal. His defense is so good he needs to be playing every day, in my opinion. His defense is incredible. I think he's the best middle infielder we have defensively. Obviously DJ LeMahieu was side, but this guy plays excellent shortstop, plays really nice second base, as we can see. I just love watching Peraza play. He's my favorite, in my opinion. I just love to see him. I love watching him play.
What's crazy though is, as good as he is, Volpe has been fantastic at shortstop as well. So it really,
it's been really
it does give you a lot of hope that Hal Steinbrenner's vision for the middle infield being those two in the future is finally starting to come along faster than I thought it would. And we knew it was going to take an injury for something like this to happen. But now you got to figure out where does Gleyber Torres play, because he statistically is better when he's playing defense as well, much like Giancarlo Stanton. He benefits from being out there on the field. He's a better player. And he's been ice cold lately. He had the walk-off sac fly the other day, but he's gone cold as well. So you got to figure out where to play him. So maybe this does allow them to try out Peraza at third finally, something that I know he's not in the chat right now, but he's brought this up constantly. They have not done it yet. I don't think they should do it at the major league level. That's why I was hoping they would try it in the minor leagues or in the spring. But You got to find a place to put Torres because I don't want Cordero in the outfield too often. I think he's more of a DH bat, especially when we get Bader back. You can have Bader, Cabrera, Judge as your outfield, and that's as good as we're going to have it. And you can have another lefty DH bat. They're still going to have to rotate pieces around as well. DJ can play all over the place, so we don't have to worry about that. But as long as Peraza's here, he's got to play every day. They can't sit him, play him, sit him, play him. It's not going to do you any good. He has to play every single day. So if that means Torres has to DH, then so be it. But yeah, Peraza's got to keep playing. He looked fantastic. I can't stress that enough. He looked so good yesterday, and he's only had 2 starts. And I'm like, he's already done more than Aaron Hicks. So it's another player that's outplayed this guy in a matter of less than 20 games.
Yeah, when you with Peraza, he saw how Volpe handled the spring training, forcing the Yankees' hand to make the move earlier than they wanted to. Peraza has to now bring himself to that level, and I believe he's doing that. But he's got to make them. He's got to force them to kind of make a decision early on him now, and say, "Look, he's just too good to send back down. Options be damned. He has to stay up here because look at what this team is doing. Look at how solid the defense is. Like TC said, the defense has been spectacular throughout, and Peraza is a part of that. In this series, so Peraza has to take a page from Volpe's book." Force them to make the decision early and let the front office figure out the other mess. But I think Peraza is going to give them no choice but to keep him up.
He should. They should keep him up as long as possible. I'm glad I was wrong about Donaldson. I thought he was back, and I'm glad he's not. So this keeps Peraza on the roster, and then they'll have to. We know Calhoun's going to be the one to go when Bader comes back, so we'll have something, we won't really have to worry about roster shuffling too long. It's just who's playing where on what day. But Peraza cannot be sitting because that's the worst thing they could do to him.
And the thing is, there's a lot of pressure on Peraza because Peraza has to play really well basically every single time he's out there, or he knows he's going to get benched the next day because the Yankees aren't all in on Peraza. We know that. They treat him. They treat him as a role player. And it's very unfair on the guy considering his abilities. His defense is incredible, and he's got a very good bat too. So Peraza, what he has to do is every single time he plays, he has to be productive. Whatever he does, whether it's incredible defense, drawing walks, getting the odd hit, he needs to do all that because that the Yankees can't wait to sit him because they're not that invested in him right now. That's the truth, Rob. As you know, man, they're invested in Josh Donaldson. They're invested in Gleyber Torres. And they're obviously invested in Aaron Hicks. And that's why we're in this situation. So it's just kind of unfair on Peraza, man, because that if he has an off game, he's not playing the next day. And that's just it's not a right way to develop your prospects at all.
I don't know if they'll. I don't know if I can guarantee that they'll go that route, even though we've seen that before. Because I think that they're learned. I think Volpe taught them a lesson, where you may have a couple of rough games in the middle of something. But
no, Rob. But Tats, they're invested in Volpe. They're not that invested in Peraza. That considering the way they've treated him.
No, Hal already made the statement that Peraza and Volpe are the future of the middle of the infield.
Hal's man. Hal's not involved in the front office. It's Cashman that you want to hear from.
Let him tell them what to do. They're just like George would.
No, he doesn't. He's not that active, man. It's Cashman's show. The decisions that have been made is Brian Cashman.
Yeah, so fortunate, Mazda brings it. If they aren't that invested in him, just trade him. But they're not going to do that because Cashman knows what Hal's expectations are, so that's why they're not going to put him in a trade. Who's the odd man out? Again, it comes back to Torres. I think that's the problem because he can't. We've seen how Torres can be productive. He's in a skid right now. He hasn't really been as productive at the plate as he was in the first week of the year. So, you know, do they just pull the trigger on Torres?
They don't have to trade anybody right now, though. Like it's not like it's April 21st. They're not going to trade anybody right now. This could be a similar situation to what Tampa Bay did with Willie Adames and Wander Franco. Maybe they go that route, but right now, I mean, unless a team is calling you saying, "Hey, we'll give you this corner outfielder," I don't know if that guy's available right now for Gleyber Torres straight up. You might think about it. Because at least you could say, all right, we have Peraza and LeMahieu that can play second, and we really won't miss the defense. And that bat can be replaced as well because we have so much pop anyway. And the speed might do you better as well with Peraza over Torres, even though Torres is stealing bases like crazy this year. But they don't have to make a desperation move right now. They just have to find a way to get Peraza in the lineup every single day. And you can do that with DH and Gleyber Torres for now. Or you can DH, but the thing is, you can't put Torres anywhere else. You can't put Torres at short. You can't put Torres at third. He's never played there, and I don't think they should experiment with that. So the fact that Gleyber Torres is only a second baseman, maybe I don't know what the hell that noise is. Maybe they can try Peraza at third now. They can give it a shot because they've tried IKF in the outfield, and we never thought we'd see that. So maybe they give that a shot now, just to get him some playing time.
I think it's gonna. This is one of those where, like we had said going into the year, this is a very it's a wonderful problem to have when you have too many players that can win you games, and there's not enough spots for everybody. But when it comes to all we've been hearing about are these prospects and how we can't sign this free agent because that means that there's going to be no room for such player. Well, said players are ready to play. So just put them in their positions and figure everybody else out.
Right. Like right now, your best lineup is Rizzo at first, Peraza at second, Volpe at short, LeMahieu at third, Torres can DH, Judge, somebody in center, Judge in center, Cordero in right, Cabrera in left. That's your best out alignment right now until maybe a week or less time when Bader's back. And then things will figure itself out. But if Gleyber Torres has to DH, and then maybe the thing is you don't have another third baseman, so you can play IKF at third as well, and you can put Torres at second. Maybe you DH Peraza if you just want to get him a day off from the field. But he needs to be out there as much as possible. That's the whole point. Is Gleyber Torres could use a day off because he's been ice cold. You can give him a day off. And if he gets hot again, let's say we get to like end of May or into June, and Peraza is still playing well, they might look to trade Gleyber Torres and be like, well, he's only got one more year left. Peraza is just starting his rookie year, technically. So it benefits the Yankees to hold on to Peraza because of the financials and the contracts and the manipulation and all that.
Well, the Peraza does need to play every day. I completely agree with that. It's not a way to develop a prospect by having him just sit there and play every other day. That's not how you develop a prospect. At this point, play him every day until everyone's healthy, and then you can figure it out. That's where I'm at. If the D-backs could afford to DFA Mad Bum, why can't the Yankees afford to eat Hicks' smaller contract?
Did they DFA him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's gone.
Where is LI right now? You know how many
times
he recommended trading for him? Oh, that is classic.
No, he was already saying on the Yankees Morning Brew that the Yankees should pick him up and use him as a lefty in the bullpen.
Since we're on the baseball topic, give me a baseball bat, and I'll hit myself over the head with it.
Yeah. No,
there's really no rule for Aaron Hicks, man. But that's kind of the point, and I agree. There's no rule for Aaron Hicks. Whichever way you look at it, IKF's a better center fielder than him. He can't play left field, and he can't hit. So there's really no reason for Aaron Hicks to be here. So yeah, you should definitely cut him. But the Yankees hate to be wrong. Brian Cashman loathes being wrong and admitting his mistakes. So he's going to ride Aaron Hicks as long as he possibly can get away with it.
Yeah, and that's what sucks about it, because it's a factual statement. If Arizona, who does not have the pockets of the Yankees, can cut Bumgarner, then that should be a red flag for the front office to say, well, if they could do it, we could do it. I mean, they like to copy every team anyway. They've been trying to become the Rays for how long? With no success. So just cut them. Just cut Hicks. That solves one problem right there. Maybe when Bader comes back, maybe they do DFA Hicks. One could only hope.
No, it'll be Calhoun, but it should. But look, that doesn't change the fact that this is another year where a team that doesn't have the financial stability or the financial ability or the pockets that the Yankees do. Angels did it with Justin Upton. We saw the Cubs do it. The Cubs have deep pockets, but they got rid of Jason Hayward despite having a lot of money left over. And now the Diamondbacks and Mad Bum's got another year left on his contract. So if they can do it, why can't we for Aaron Hicks, who over the next 3 years is going to get paid $30 million in total? So yeah, it's a perfect time to do it. Just get rid of him. He needs to go. He's needed to go for the last 5 years. And now that you're going to pay him a little bit less, you can do that. It doesn't make sense to do it for Donaldson yet because of the extra year he has left, and it's going to be $50 million to not play for you, but that'll be done next year. Hicks has to go. He has no role on this team. Even with Stanton out, he played one game, failed miserably, and he hasn't played since. He hasn't played the last 2 games, and guess what? We've won the last 2 games, and the offense has been overall better. So what does that tell you? And we even saw another situation where IKF pinch hit in extra innings the other night, wasn't it? Yeah. Where and once again, didn't go to Aaron Hicks. What does that tell you about the player? Aaron Boone doesn't want to be using him.
No,
he doesn't want to be. And this is another Cashman thing. He's probably like the fact that he's like, well, he's going to get a chance to play with Stanton out, and then immediately got benched after one performance where he actually didn't have the worst game of his life. He did draw a couple of walks, but that's all he can do. You want something, you want some upside. He doesn't give it to you. He would have been perfect for the lineup yesterday because all we did was draw walks. We drew 11 walks. He probably would have had a couple himself, but that's it.
Yeah, but I don't even know if he can do that anymore. I just don't have trust in him.
That's all he does. He either strikes out looking or draws a walk. That's it.
If you gave Aaron Boone truth serum, he would tell you that he doesn't like him. Yeah. Because every opportunity Aaron Hicks dismisses Aaron Boone, talks him down. He has no respect for his manager. The only reason why he's still here is because Brian Cashman gave him a stupid contract, and he doesn't want to eat the money, and he doesn't want to admit that he was horrendously wrong, because then that means that his narrative that fans are idiots and the fans are unfair and the fans are cruel will then all collapse in a million pieces. It would all just collapse in a million pieces if the truth came out. So Aaron Boone has to keep kind of peddling this narrative that, he's still going to get an opportunity. No. If you gave Aaron Boone truth serum, Hicks ain't his guy. IKF showed that yesterday. He wants IKF in there over Aaron Hicks. And that was a good lineup yesterday, to be fair. I liked it. That was a good lineup. It made sense. Everyone was in a position to succeed. And that's smart. They should continue to do that.
Yeah, I think everybody was the lineup was set up for everybody to succeed, and we saw the results of it. So it's one of those. If Boone could throw out the same lineup for the next couple of days, he'll be. That's good enough for me. Because if this is what we're going to get out of it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, he needs to have the same lineup out for this series coming up with Toronto, because if we want to show that we got some muscle in this division, because right now Tampa Bay's beating everybody. So
they look good.
Yeah, if anyone's going to catch them, you got to beat the other teams until we play Tampa. So hopefully we can take another series, because that's all we tend to do is just keep winning series or tying, which has been fantastic. Which is why after the first game I was saying I'm not worried right now, because let's see how the series finishes out. And we ended up taking the whole thing. So hopefully they put the same lineup out there the next few games. And if we can take 2 out of 3 or sweep them, that'd be fantastic.
Well, I got to sign off, so I will leave you two to finish the show. But it was really good to see everybody in the chat, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Talk to you later, Donald. No, and I think what we're trying to, it's such a, it's one of those, who knows what's going to happen. I think the lineup has been fine, but you were saying with the division, I think the Yankees can still win this division. But to what we've been able to do so far this season, it really comes down to just winning the series, and kind of letting Tampa Bay, I think, will level off. I'm not sure yet how to take the start of their season. Are they for real, or are they just in a rhythm right now that may not hold up? So as long as you can keep pace with Tampa until we figure out what their real identity is, if it's this or if they're just going to kind of tail off a little bit, that's what we're going to have to work. That's what we're going to have to wait for.
They're not going to keep up this pace. No team in baseball history has kept up this kind of a pace because they're on pace to win like 130 games or something like that right now. It's not going to happen. And look, again, credit to them. They're a good team, but look at their schedule. They should have a record similar to what they have right now. Maybe not this many wins. You thought they maybe lose a couple of more games, but we're only back 4 games, and we haven't played nearly as well as they have. They played Detroit, Washington, Oakland, Boston. Then they lost 2 out of 3 to Toronto. Then they beat Cincinnati 2 out of 3. Like, look who they're playing. Of course they're going to win a bunch of games, but the one time they played a team that's expected to go places this year, they lose 2 out of 3. So give it a little time because they got to play Chicago next, who's not terrible but not bad either. I'm sorry, they're not great, but they're not terrible. Then they play Houston and Chicago again. So I said it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, whatever it was. Let's wait and see until the end of the month because this is the real test right here. Chicago, Houston, Chicago again. And if they come out of this still with a insanely good winning record, then we can be a little bit worried. Yeah. But I'm not worried about the division on April 21st when we're playing good baseball. We haven't played them at all yet. Now we won't play them until May, early May or something like that. But let's wait and see. It's still too early because they're not going to keep up this pace. And it's not because they're not a good team. It's because no team in baseball will keep up that kind of a pace. Just impossible. We didn't do it last year. So it's not going to happen.
So I don't mean to let you. No, you're right. It's just so bad you can't even hit the like button. But all of you can. If you're liking the conversation, hit the like button, share it out. Let's get some attention to the channel. It'll help us out a lot. But you saw what happened with Tampa when they had to play a good team in Toronto. They weren't as dominant as they were in the beginning of the year. That was when they hit their first bit of adversity, and they really didn't deliver. So I'm not. That's why, like what you were saying, it's still early to tell what their real identity is. And it's going to be another, let them go through this stretch of teams. And then if they're still, they might, even if they're not winning every game, if they're still putting up some of the productivity that we've seen, maybe it's time to look at them in a different light. And, they might be more of a threat in the first half of the season than we thought.
They're a good team, so of course they're a threat. I'm not trying to downplay what they've done because they should be beating these teams. But again, everyone's acting like this is going to be what they are in October when we get to the end of the season. It's not, and it's just because baseball history tells us it won't be. I think they're going to win a lot of games. I think they're probably going to. They could be a playoff team. I still think we win this division, but if they beat us out for it, I wouldn't be surprised because of the start they've had. And again, their schedule tells you they should have had a start like this. They should have 14 to 16 wins like they do. Maybe even more because again, they lost 2 out of 3 to Toronto. So that was to be expected. Toronto's a good team as well. I don't know why everyone's like, they're so much better than everybody else. They've played
really
bad teams. So if they beat us, then I'll be like, I'll shut up. They're the team to beat. But they didn't beat Toronto very well. I want to see how they do against Chicago and Houston because that's who you're going to be playing come playoff time. You're going to be playing Houston, Toronto, Yankees, maybe Chicago, depending on where they go. Cleveland, they haven't played these kind of teams yet.
Yep.
So let's wait and see how they do against those teams.
Yeah, if you put them against Cleveland, I think that would be a really interesting series to watch. So I think both those teams do have a lot of similarities, but Cleveland has the edge where, as much as we give credit to Kevin Cash and his ability to manage, when you're going up against Francona, you're going into you're on a different level as a manager. You know, Francona's he's still very old school and can beat you beat you in a lot of ways. I think that would be a series. I actually would one of those I would turn the Yankee game off to watch that, just to see how those two teams would compete. What?
No, I've never turned a Yankee game off to watch Tampa Bay.
I mean, that was a little sarcastic. There's no way I'm turning a Yankee game off. You know, they could be down 20-0. I ain't changing the channel. I can't do it. But it's get to this with Mozzie here. No, just to shift gears, but Tats, you and I talked about the A's land deal to Vegas to get a new home. That stadium would be good. The A's would be paying $1 billion of the 1.5 to fund it. Wow. Well, what Rob? What do you think about the A's moving? You think it's about time?
I think Oakland deserves better. I know Vegas is the hot place to be now because they've had like 70 different things happen over the last few years. They got a football team, probably gonna get a basketball team in the next few years. They got a hockey team now, so I know it's the hot place to play, but Oakland's still a pretty passionate city, and that organization did them no favors because they had solid teams not too long ago, and they were just ran so terribly. They had a dump of a stadium. They still do, and they are literally tanking, and it's almost impossible to like full-on tank in baseball, but they found a way to do it, and they're so bad. I think they have like 2 or 3 wins this year already. Like it's bad. They're a terrible team, and they should be forced to like sell the team, and then the new ownership should decide what they want to do. But I feel like Oakland deserves better because when that team wins and they play well and they show it and they give people a reason to believe in them and they put in the effort, the fans do show up and they're loud. And that's a terrible place to want to go watch a baseball game. So yeah, I think Oakland deserves better than that. But hopefully Vegas baseball fans, if there are any out there, go whenever the stadium's built and have a good time. But I just think Oakland deserves better than what they've been dealt with because that's such a terribly ran organization.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like the movie Major League. What I would propose, and I think this would be an interesting discussion, is the MLB, they've been talking about doing an expansion. Why not just let the owner of the A's take the team to Vegas? Right, no problem. And reinsert into Oakland one of the expansion teams and just give them a whole new ownership group, a whole new team, and see I think that might be a way they can go.
I mean, they could. But you'd probably have to add another expansion. Where do they go back to Montreal, bring the Expos back?
Why not?
They could. I just don't want to bring back a team, an old team, and have it have this new history because the Nationals were the Expos. I don't like doing that. Yeah. So if you're taking the current Athletics and you're moving them to Vegas, then the new team in Oakland would have to, it's always going to be connected in some way. Like, well, remember the old Oakland team did so and so. I don't know. I feel bad for the Oakland fans. I don't feel bad for their owner. I don't feel bad for the team. I feel bad for the fans because they've been dealing with crap for so long, for so long. And now they're basically they're tanking so nobody shows up, so the league was going to force them to move. That's what's happening.
Yeah. But the one thing that Maz and I were talking yesterday is I actually if they just completely give themselves a whole new identity in Las Vegas, as storied as the A's are, and they're one of the original teams. So do they just start with a whole new identity and a brand? But they did say later on in the day, it came out that they are going to be staying as the A's if they move, and will they will incorporate the original logo into the new the new move, the new stadium. I think that's really cool.
I just hope they get a new ownership because
the owner's not going to do any better in Vegas than he did in Oakland.
Right. So they're ran terribly, and I get what Nikki's saying here, like that Oakland's kind of running them out, but let's be honest here, it's not like the A's have done the city many favors to want them to stay there. They're not a good run. They're not a well-run organization. They're not. You don't trade off as many players as they've traded off in the last few years, and they've gotten virtually nothing back. And one of the players they did get back in the Matt Olson trade was just DFA'd after like a season. They said, we're not going to give you a shot despite us being a terrible team. We're not going to give a 23-year-old who was a big piece in a trade for one of our, if not our best player, we're just going to DFA him. So, I don't blame the city of Oakland for wanting to get them the hell out of there.
Yeah, it's, they need I just think they need a change. I think it's run its course in Oakland. They're not going to give that team a new stadium. So just go elsewhere and just start, just get something new. Wow. Okay. So Nick adds to the conversation here. The athletic owners offered to build a stadium with zero cost to the city. All they asked for was a piece of land on the water, and the city said no. And so maybe it's the owners, as far, they've been having so many problems with the city and the politicians that they're like, what, it's not even worth investing all money into the team because it's what is it all going to be for?
Yeah, because they don't have a good product. I look at what happened with the Marlins. They built that new stadium in Miami, like not in the heart of Miami, but close enough to like the heart of Miami, and nobody goes there. Still nobody goes there, even when they're a decent team. Like they showed a highlight. I know it was a Wednesday afternoon, but it looked like there was maybe 10 people in the crowd. I know that's an exaggerated number.
Yeah.
There was a lot more than that, but there was nobody there. And you can't tell me everyone's working, because if you work in a retail setting like a lot of people do, you know that on a Wednesday afternoon, you're going to see a lot of people shopping around. You're like, does anybody work nowadays? So yeah, people can go to a baseball game, especially in Miami on a Wednesday afternoon. So if the team isn't good, maybe the city, I don't know how Oakland politics work, and Nikki would know better than me, but if the team hasn't been good for so many years, why would they, even though it costs the city nothing, is anyone going to go to watch the team? Because it's not going to bring a lot of revenue anyway. Because I don't think Miami's making too much from the Marlins. They're not. That's why they had to sell them off, and then Jeter left, and the Marlins stink. And they have some exciting players, and nobody wants to go see them play. Look at Oakland. They have to have the fans are setting up like reverse boycotts just to show that people still care, because the team's giving nobody a reason to go watch them play. The fans are like, no, let's go watch them play. That's how bad it is. I don't know the whole full story, but I just think personally the fans in Oakland deserve a little bit better. I couldn't care less about the city of Oakland because I'm not from there. I don't really care about California, but I don't think that the fans deserve just to have their team. Just same way the Raiders fans didn't deserve to have their team just leave them.
When you're talking about with Miami, I think what's interesting is when you look at the demographic that populates the area, you think baseball would do well, because the majority, and I don't want to seem stereotypical. I'm really not saying it this way. It's going to sound that, but with the popular Hispanic, people, you would think that they would flock to the stadium more in Miami than other areas. You think Florida would do well, but when you have the whole spectrum of the other sports that occupy Florida, baseball can't compete with that. They can't compete with all the college.
Completely disagree. Look at the World Baseball Classic, Tats.
Good point.
Look at the World Baseball Classic. That place was rocking like it was the World Series. For Puerto Rico, for the Dominican Republic, for the United States even, it was rocking.
So it's more the product and the population.
The team sucks. The team isn't good. It hasn't been good for a long time. And even when they had Stanton and Gordon and Yelich and all these other guys and Jose Fernandez before he unfortunately left us, they still didn't really want to go watch the team play because the team was ran so terribly. And they weren't winning games. They weren't putting in the effort to say, let's take the next step to try to make this a legitimate winner because they had the pieces. Stanton said, go get us some pitching. We're going to win you some games. And they didn't want to do it. And the fans just don't want to go. The World Baseball Classic was sold out quickly. I went there way back in 2013. It was a packed house. It was insane. It was fun. People care about baseball. But the Marlins, they don't want to go see them play unless a big team comes. Look at when the Mets come to Miami. Watch a game when the Mets play the Marlins, and then watch the very next series when a team like the Nationals come to town. It's a ghost town compared to how it is because there's a lot of New Yorkers here, but people are going to want to go root for the Marlins against the New Yorkers just to pretend like they're fans for a second. That's how it is. They only show up, and that's why the ticket prices go up. When the Mets come to town, the Yankees come to town, the tickets are through the roof. The next series, they play a team like Tampa Bay even. And I know it was mentioned earlier in the comments, Tampa Bay doesn't even sell out. And they're the best team in baseball right now. Nobody wants to go watch, but maybe it's the area, whatever it is, but the Marlins are not good. They haven't been good for a while, and the fans don't really care. But there is a market for baseball in Miami because the World Baseball Classic proves it every 3-4 years, whatever it is that they play it.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. But yeah, it does. I think it's worth looking into the comparisons of because even with the population of New Yorkers, the way New York was, a lot of us, we were raised on baseball. That was a big part of our youth, especially in the boroughs. All right, and Nick can attest to that. But you would think that they would want to at least get as much baseball as they can, and it's not like in Miami or in Tampa you're paying top dollar. It's the same thing. You don't have to go and see the Yankees or the Mets when they come down to Florida. You can get dirt cheap tickets anytime you want, and they're still not going. So to your point, that
the entire state of Florida is a bandwagon state, and I can tell you this living here: the Miami Heat, they were not a good team. They had one of the best players in basketball in Dwayne Wade, and when they signed LeBron James and Chris Bosh, the ticket prices shot up dramatically. Even their announcer said it. This is a bandwagon city. And all of a sudden, the Heat were selling out game after game, and the playoffs they sounded like the place was going to collapse. That's how loud it was. Everyone was a Heat fan all of a sudden. When the Marlins won the World Series in 2003 and 97, everyone was a Marlins fan all of a sudden. And when the Yankees came to town back in 2009, I went to those games. Everyone was a Marlins fan all of a sudden because they knew here come the big bad Yankee fans to take over our stadium that we don't sell out. So they just came over to be loud. The very next series, I went to the series after the Yankee series. There was nobody there. That's just how it is. It's a bandwagon city.
Such a shame.
And the Dolphins are the same way. I went to a Giants-Dolphin game back in 2015. Go look up the highlights. Everybody in the chat. Giants-Dolphins 2015. Watch Odell Beckham's touchdown and tell me it does not sound like you're at MetLife Stadium. That's how bad of a state Miami or city is. A city or state, Florida, Miami, is for sports. It's bandwagon city. Maybe a team like the Magic. I don't know how it is for the Orlando Magic, but most of the teams in the area that I'm in South Florida, bandwagon city. I implore everyone that's here in the chat, just look up that clip of Odell Beckham's touchdown in Miami in 2015, Giants-Dolphins, and tell me. Even the announcers say it sounds like we're in East Rutherford right now. They mentioned it at some point.
That's what's trouble. That's what's puzzling with Florida too. It's such a tourist state. You would think that would be an attraction for people to go see a ball game. So that's bizarre. It really is.
The product isn't good, and there's a bunch of displaced New Yorkers here anyway. So you're gonna go see the New York teams play, but it's just if the Marlins are not giving you a reason to go, they're not gonna go. Even on a Wednesday afternoon. It's like, why would I'm not going to go spend the time or the money to go watch a bad team play. So if they were winning games, I guarantee you they'd be going to watch them play. If the Marlins were 16-3, like the Rays are, they'd probably be having people fill in.
Wow. All right, let's get back to some Yankee talk before we head out for the weekend. I want to go back not to last night's game, the game before with Brito on the mound. I wanted to hear your thoughts on his bounce back performance, and if it gave you hope that he was able to shake off that bad start, or do you still want to see more from him?
I think he looked fine, considering what he was in his last start. He was a hell of a lot better. And I know he didn't give us 5 innings or anything, but his stuff was better. He didn't get rocked. I know Judge helped him out, like robbing a home run, but it was a huge bounce back because to go from one extreme to the next, to go from giving up 11 runs or whatever it was to 0 or 2. What was it? Did he give up any runs that start technically? Might have been like one.
Run.
Yeah, something like that. That's a huge difference. It's a huge difference, and it was good to see that he had the very short memory that you need to have for a pitcher to go out there and be better in your next start because the Angels have some hitters.
Yeah. No, I think for him to be able to, and I talked about this yesterday, for him to be able to put up, the outing that he did against that lineup, and it's not like they're an important, but when you still have, Trout, Ohtani, Rendon, those aren't pushover players. You still have to navigate through those guys, and it's going to be really interesting, to see now where he goes from here. He's like, all right, I was able to really, and I think the Yankee pitching overall did a really good job keeping those guys off the bases. They got their hits, but they weren't punished by those hits. They were able to get around them. And FJ asked if we're doing another watch party soon, probably next weekend. We'll be doing another live stream. This weekend I'm pretty busy. So, and I want to work on a new setup where I can add a second screen just to make it easier to follow everything instead of clicking tab to tab. It's just not working, and we want to make sure that we give you guys the best we can if you guys come on.
What do you mean clicking tab to tab?
Because I'm having the game day open the shit when I share the screen. Because I can't I can't see the gameplay while I'm in the live screen.
Aren't you watching the game on your TV though?
Yeah, but it's so delayed. Nothing's timed right. Let's bitch about that for a minute. Right? When you came on the other day, you were almost a half an inning ahead of me on the S app.
Man, it's the app's fault because I have MLB TV and that's usually delayed from live TV anyway.
Yeah, it's terrible. And then on the game, when you're on the MLB app and you're just watching it on gameplay, nothing syncs up. It's terrible. You would think with the technology they'd be able to, even if you want to have it, you want to have your TV radio delay, which I think is regulated by the FCC. There's something you could do about that. There's going to be like a 30-second delay from live, but at least synchronize it all. That would make it a lot easier. And this way, like we were saying, oh, you're going to love this play, and 5 minutes later, I'm like, wow, that was a nice catch. That shouldn't happen.
I think it might depend on area because even during football season, I was watching a game with Donald and like he was maybe 2 or 3 plays ahead of me. So it might have to do with location and depending on how you're watching it as well. So if you're streaming it on MLB TV, it could be different than how you're streaming on the Yes app. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. But what we can do is next time we stream the game, we just all make sure that we're synced at the same time. So if someone has to pause and if we're a little bit delayed from the actual game, so be it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll work it out. But like I said, I want to make sure that we give you guys the best experience. So we're going to work on some of the technical things. And we're going to get back into trying to do one a week. Most likely Saturday games, would probably be the better day for us to coordinate between the five of us, between us and the upper deck. And so we're gonna get back onto the game streaming because that's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and to answer Nikki's question, it's I'm assuming he's talking about the Dolphin Stadium. It's in Miami Gardens.
Oh, is it? Which is other?
Oh, we want to get
That's
rid of
spam.
this.
Yeah.
get rid of that. And I know you guys on YouTube aren't seeing it, but we got a pretty big spam comment there. So
Yeah, that's through the Twitch stream.
yeah, don't even bother.
Nope. Because I went to click on Nick's comment here. How mad would Donald be if Pete hits more home runs than Judge? Let me tell you, as much as we get on the Mets, right, and we get on other teams that are quote unquote rivals, right? If a good player is a good player, you kind of tip your cap. You know, I think Pete Alonso teamed up in New York with Aaron Judge is so good for the New York market. You want him to do well, because it makes the discussions amongst the fan bases that much more intense and legitimate if you have two powerhouses competing for the back page. So if Pete hits more than Judge, one, I don't think it'll happen. But we'll see. I mean, I know Alonso's on a tear right now, but he could be a little streaky, just like any other player.
I think Alonso has more home runs than Judge since like 2019, something like that. But I don't think Donald would care too much. I couldn't care less what Pete Alonso does. I don't care how the Mets perform unless they're playing us. The Mets could win 120 games. If they lose 6 to us, I'm going to be like, oh, we beat the Mets 6 times at least. That's all I care about when it comes to the Mets is how they perform head-to-head against the Yankees. Other than that, do not care about their players. I do not care about their stats. If they're winning, good for you guys, Nikki. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for the few fans from the Mets that I get along with, guys like Thomas and all the guys from SportsWire, but I don't care about the Mets. So Pete Alonso can do whatever he wants. He can hit as many home runs as he wants. If Aaron Judge is helping us win games, that's all I care about.
Yeah,
I'm not going to speak for Donald, though. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, but we'll ask him and I'll let you know. But that's going to wrap things up for us today. Just remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And as always, tune in on Sunday at 11 for Lynn and Chris on the upper deck. And as always, wear your pinstripes, your pride, and play hard.